Hello everybody, welcome to another inconsistent bookworm, and I told you I'm getting back to a series I've done quite a few videos on. More importantly, we're getting back to My Hero Academia. This one's of course Volume 8. I will say if I can begin to start reviewing I guess the covers, since otherwise I'm just keep talking more and more about a series the best way to put it is I've just loved every second of it nearly. This is probably the lamest cover I've ever seen, no offense. It's not bad by any stretch of the imagination, but it's a very... I get that all the covers are supposed to be comic book-esque, while most mangas are fairly different. This one is just kind of... It's just a bunch of people kind of posing. But that is the biggest fault I can say. To jump into the story and what is good and what is bad. It picks up, of course, right after the end of 7, which is where we got to see Bakugou and Deku actually having to work together to defeat All Might, because they are trying to train all the different hero, or the kids are a part of the class, to train them how to be able to use their powers against a true super villain in a way. You know, and trying to show them it's like they're not going to hold back beyond just their fight that they had with the League of Villains back in Volume 3 and Volume 4. It's like the villains are a lot more are going to be a lot more powerful than you think. So it's like, why not go against some of the best? And you actually get to see Bakugou and Deku have a bit of a friendship moment. You get to see some of their actual, like, them coming together as friends. Even if it's almost like a very, like, I'm respecting you because I have to moment at times with Bakugou. But, dear God, it's phenomenally well written. You actually give a shit about them. You want to see Bakugou finally pull his head out of his ass. Though, in the same instance, you kind of get some of his hang-ups at times. It's not that you 100% always say it's like, oh, he's totally in the right or anything. There's times you're like, yeah, he's just kind of being a bit of a prick to be a prick. But in the same instance, you kind of can be like, okay, I get it. He's got a method to his stupid madness. And also you get to see all the other different heroes throughout the class. But the main focus is, of course, Deku and Bakugou. The story, thankfully, is still staying really strong with, you know, showing off the other heroes a bit, but focusing, of course, on the big main character, which is, of course, Deku. And, of course, by the end of it all, they go on a summer vacation. Though there's, like, a bit of a thing where... I can't pronounce his name correctly. Eraserhead is what I'm going to call him, his hero name. And whenever he actually seems like, oh, well, you're not going to be able to go on your summer vacation unless you pass this hard test. And of course, like, most everybody pass it, but like, a few people are technically fail it. So they're like, oh, I'm going to stay. And then like, nah, we're just messing with you. Because Eraserhead kind of likes to fuck with people that way. But that, you know, was kind of the end of the thing. And we also get to see a bit of the summer camp. Though we also get to see what's going on with the villains. And also we get to see Mr. Hansy. We get to see his creepy fucking face. Ah, there's Nightmare Fuel. That is a face that would just frighten anybody. I think even Doomsday being not gonna go near that thing, because that's scary shit. But yeah, we get to see what's going up with them, and they seem to be preparing another attack. And more importantly, they're getting more. He's getting more followers because of Stain, and it actually angers him more. Though it again shows off a little bit of his own naivete and his own kind of childishness. And that's understandable, because he's supposed to be a kid who's about probably the same age as, like, Bakugou, maybe a little bit older. Not much. And he's kind of delusional is the best way to put it. He pretty much was given a villainous kind of power, and he's been using it for very villainous means. And that's something I do hope that eventually is dealt with. If that's the biggest issue I could say with the series, is it really hasn't yet poured much into the idea of why do villains decide to be villains? I get it. It's supposed to be about Deku, and I actually love Deku as a character. I really love seeing him grow into this, hero that he's really becoming. But it's one of those means, or one of those things that I've always been fascinated with. What makes a hero, and what makes a villain actually a villain? It's not that this is a super complicated matter. For crying out loud, technically Power Rangers has done it throughout in space. Sure, that was when its rhyme was arguably the best, but still. It would be nice to see them actually delve more into, well, why are these villains deciding to be villains? Especially when some of them don't seem to have powers that would appear to be something super, dangerous, or something that could be very villanesque or anything like that. So, why do they decide to do what they do? Sure, you're going to have the lame ones like, I do it because I like power, I like to kill, and stuff like that. But there was the character, of course, Stain, that he had actually a unique kind of twisted moral logic to it. And it was actually very interesting to see him kind of go up against Deku. In the fact that you have one who wants to be a hero because he wants to do good. Stain believes he is doing good and doesn't believe there is such a thing as heroes or villains. In a normal sense, or at least in Stain's mind. I like a complex villain. I don't mind me a good old twirly mustache evil villain, but I do like a villain who is at least has some layers to him. A villain you can almost root for, or a villain that you can at least sympathize to. That is the reason why, again, if I can talk about something I've just sucked its dick for hours and hours, Avengers Infinity War. The reason why Thanos is such a relatable villain is not just in the fact that, we relate to the fact he wants to commit mass genocide, but because of the fact that he doesn't see it as like a good thing, he sees it as a necessary thing. Sure, it's insane logic. That's the reason why he's the Mad Titan. But because of what he was given by his own society, the downfall of it because of their own running out of resources and whatnot, you can't fault him for believing in something whenever he's been given, here's my proof to think why this way. And that's what I want. I want to see a villain that can either give me a way to actually think about his motives or kind of look more into it, or at least give me something more than just technically twirly mustache villains. The League of Villains that seem to be coming up, the new people. There's one guy who seems to have like stitches and all that up and down his face. I don't know, explain his powers. And this other girl who seems to be a vampire, I think. They seem to have a little bit more going for them. But I don't know. The book really doesn't spend a lot of time on them. And because, again, the focus is, of course, on Deku. But that is the biggest gripe I can say with the entire series up to this point. Especially since, if you think about it, I'm on book 8 at this point. I want us to move forward with, let's begin to have a little bit more smarter villains. Villains are a little bit more than just, I'm evil for evil's sake. I know there's already been talk of all for one. And I know there's been talk of him. He's pretty much just like uber villain is the best way to describe it. But I haven't seen him yet. And that is another thing I'm going to go ahead and let y'all know. I have started to watch the anime. And I will say, the manga's technically better. hear me out here. It's not that the anime is bad. The anime is actually really good. The issue is that it's an anime, so it has to technically kind of waste time, is the best way to put it. The best example I can think of, the actual Deku becoming a hero and finally beginning to inherit All Might's powers took 4 episodes. It took one manga volume. That's it. Just one volume, which is like, what, 8 chapters or something like that? Let me see where we technically start here. Yeah, 63, so yeah, there's only 8 chapters a volume. It's... I get that it needs to slow down certain things so that way we can, one, build up certain heroes or build up certain scenes, maybe explain certain issues and whatnot. I always 100% certain what their reasoning for it is. But I get that they need to do that, but at the same time, it feels like filler. When you're somebody who's already read it, it does make it seem like, okay, well, we can cut that down a little. Or, hey, let's get the snapping. 2 episodes to get Deku actually kind of up and moving, I think would have been enough. Nearly 4 to finally get him as, truly have inherited the powers and trying out for UA. It's a little slow. Now, I have not watched Season 2. I will fully admit that. And the big reason why is simply because I want to be ahead of it. Because I did look at some of the episodes, and some of it was talking about the summer camp stuff, and I'm like, I need to read at least, I'd probably say, up to 12 or so before I, so that way it's like, okay, well, here we go. I'm going to at least be here. Don't have to worry about any other stuff popping up. And on top of everything, I don't have to have the anime technically spoiled to me. And that is another issue I will say that is my biggest gripe with the anime. Deku is a bit of a... he's a puss. He's a pussy, for the best way to put it. I get it, he was always kind of a wiener, but he never seemed to be one who just kind of would cry at every little instance. The manga just kind of doesn't have that much of Deku being a wiener. Or he's heroic. He's always been. He knows, like, oh, this is dangerous, but you know what? Fuck it. I wanted to be a hero. I said that's what I want to do. I don't care if I have a quirk or not. I'm going to do it. More minor gripes than anything, but I will still say it's like, I do love that they got Piccolo to do the voice. Yes, I know that's not his name. But for me, he does pretty much the Piccolo voice for All Might. And dear God, does it fit whenever he decides to just go utterly badass, especially at the end whenever he just goes completely all out on Nomu. I was like, oh yeah, Daddy likes a lot. So yeah, Volume 8 of My Hero Academia. It's good, just I want some stronger villains here, or just something else, because All Essence isn't meant to be a bridging volume. It's not meant to be one that just shovels in more heroes or more things. Like, the biggest new thing that's added at the end is a little kid, his name is Kota, who technically has more of a story in Volume 8 or 9, and it's just not explored at all in this one. It just shows that he's a bit of an introvert in a way, but it's understandable, and he also hates heroes. That's all there is really to Kota in this volume. Not a bad volume. It's a fantastically well done stuff early on with Deku and Bakugou. Just I want some more villains I can actually really dig my teeth into and want to know more about them, other than just creepy ass or powerful ass villains. Give me a villain that is more than their mustache. But hey, that is the main thing of My Hero Academia. Might need to get to something a little bit different. So I'll see you all here in just a little bit. So until then, bye bye, everybody.